Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is day 110. I'm going to get that right tonight. It is day 110 of TowerGate, 6/22/2017, Thursday. And of course, as I'm recording this video, it's Wednesday. You'll see this video on Thursday morning. So it is Wednesday. For me, it's Wednesday night, garbage night. But you'll be seeing this video on Thursday morning. And that will be day number 110, the 22nd. Well. Handel wins the election, beats Ossoff, and it wasn't even close. It appears that she's won by somewhere around 5%. You have to remember that the Democrats spent 7-1, 7 times what the Republicans spent. Handel was not even really a great candidate. The Republicans really didn't even come in and try to help her out until the last 3 weeks, while Ossoff had Hollywood actors, Samuel Jackson, a bunch of other crazy people from Hollywood. He had tons of money coming in from Hollywood, and this is now makes the Democrats 0 for 4 in special elections since Trump has been elected president. That's very bad for them. Also, there's 2 more to go. We might be able to make it 6-0. Clearly, the Democrats are in total meltdown mode. Now, I told you this will probably happen. It's going to continue to happen, and it's going to get even worse. And if they want to pay me a consultant fee, I'll be more than happy to sit down with them and tell them how they can maybe begin to fix their problems. It's not 100% sure it would work, but they've got so many problems, and they're so deep in nature that they've got a lot of work to do, and they're not even in the they're not even in the arena at this point. I mean, they're still fiddling around with Trump, Russia, Trump collusion. Trump's an orange-haired cookie monster. He wants to kill the planet. He wants to reinstitute slavery. He's a fascist. They're still playing this entire anti-Trump narrative. It hasn't produced a single bit of results, nor will it. And it will not, because, you would think that even a casual observer understands this. You would think that professional political people at the highest level of national party politics would understand a simple fact about how you win elections. And the way that you win elections is by giving people something to vote for. You can't just go out and try to win elections by pointing out your opponent and saying, yeah, he's a bad guy, he's a bad dude. You know what? That only invigorates his base. That doesn't get his base to change. His base is still going to be his base. What you got to do is try to get some of his base to come to you. And you've also got to motivate your own people to go out and vote. These things will not motivate your own people to go out and vote, and they won't pull anyone over to your side. You've got to promise them something. Lie if you want to. Politicians have been doing that for thousands and thousands of years. Go out and promise them that you're going to give everyone a pony, free ice cream for life, a free car. Promise them any damn thing. It doesn't matter, even if you don't mean it. Just promise them something. A park in every community. $15 an hour minimum wage. Promise that. It's Bernie, work for Bernie. Promise them single payer, even though you can't deliver. Promise whatever you have to do. Just promise them something. But the Democrats haven't figured that out yet. They think that they can win, take back the House, based on the fact that of a smoke and mirrors campaign, which no one clearly even believes. The results are in. No one cares about Trump-Russia collusion. No one believes it. No one cares about it. No one's thinking about it. No one's talking about it. Does it work? Yet they continue to press on. I mean, there's some terribly incompetent people in the leadership of the Democratic Party. Of course, we've already known that, but anyway, the victory by Handel last night over Ossoff was huge. And again, not just because of the amount of money that the Democrats put into it and lost, money they don't have, money they probably borrowed, or they squoze out of the Hollywood crowd in California. They're going bankrupt. They're being sued by the Bernie Sanders supporters. It could cost them $200 to $300 million. They're bleeding red ink. They can't raise money. They have a lot of problems. And this was disastrous for them. They may not come out and admit this, but it was a real shot in the gut, because they had put a lot into this, and this was supposed to be the thing they were going to use to turn the tide. It did not happen. Believe me, this is devastating. the leadership of the DNC now has to sit in the conference room somewhere and say, oh man, everything that we've been trying to do obviously has not worked. We better face reality. It's not going to work. Nobody wants to give us any money. The progressive wing of our party hates us. They're trying to start a new party. They're suing the DNC. And Trump is somewhere between 40 and 50% approval ratings, and his base loves him. What are we going to do? I mean, this is the reality of the situation, and they're going to have to accept the reality, and they're going to have to come up with some kind of a plan. I would not want to be a Democratic politician right now. Would not want to be anyone associated with the Democrats right now. It's a real stinker. Okay, issue number 2 today. Jeh Johnson, Obama's head of the Department of Homeland Security, who also played an integral role in the oversight of elections in 2016, testified in front of the House Intelligence Committee today. And 2 things he said: that if you haven't slammed dunked the Russian narrative now, Mr. Jeh Johnson did it today. Keep in mind, he was an Obama appointee. He's a big-time Obama supporter, hates Trump, but he sat there in that committee today. He was questioned, and he gave 2 bits of information that should slam the door on any more talk of Russia-Trump collusion. He said that according to the Department of Homeland Security, that there was no evidence that any votes were changed by the Russians, that there was any hacking into election voting machines, or that anything was done in the 2016 elections that altered the election result. That the election results are legitimate, they are official, and they stand. That there was no Russian... there may have been, he didn't say this, but even if he could have said, there may have been efforts, but the fact of the matter is, as far as the Department of Homeland Security is concerned, there's absolutely 0 evidence that there was any votes changed or that the election was in any way, shape, or form not legitimate. It is. He also stated that something very, very interesting in a line of questioning. He was talking about the DNC and the hack. And we knew that they wouldn't let the FBI look at their servers to analyze them. But we found out today from Jeh Johnson that the Department of Homeland Security had contacted the DNC several times after the alleged hack to tell them that they had a really good team of professionals there at the Department of Homeland Security who would come over and put a patch in to make sure that they fill any gaps or holes in the system, in the network, that might allow for more intrusions. So Jeh Johnson's Department of Homeland Security tried to offer some assistance to the DCCC and the DNC, and they both declined. So not only did they not want the FBI analyzing their servers and their hard drives, and especially that DNS server, in those email servers, they certainly didn't want them looked at, but they also didn't even want Department of Homeland Security, their own guy running it, Jeh Johnson, one of their buddies, they didn't even want his people to come over and put a patch in to secure the network. Whatever they had to hide on those hard drives, it certainly is pretty obvious that there was something they wanted to hide. So that's what happened today on Capitol Hill in the hearings. And so we now have word from Jeh Johnson, former Director of Homeland Security, who now agrees with Brennan and Comey and Clapper and all the rest. No evidence whatsoever that Russia had any influence on the election whatsoever, had any influence or any effect on the outcome of the election. The election stands. It is legitimate. Here we go. Next item up. The State Department, and I assume we're talking about Rex Tillerson's people, and the State Department have now opened a formal inquiry into Hillary Rodham Clinton's handling of her emails and classified information contained within those emails. So now the State Department looks like they're going to conduct their own internal investigation, their own internal inquiry into Hillary Rodham Clinton and her private email server, her handling of classified information, and all those emails. They're still trying to find some of those emails, and there's some talk that there may be some way to do that, and they're still working on that. But this is a slow creep back into the situation. So you see, just as I told all of you, what is happening. Eventually, this smoke and mirrors campaign of Trump, Russia interfering, and all this stuff is going to go away. It's going to just go away, and it's going to go away. It'll be gone by this fall. Once we start after the fall recess and they come back and the 2018 campaign begins, there won't be much talk anymore of Russia or anything like that, because that's a dead horse. But what will begin to take front and center stage will be the real crimes that we know were committed, such as unmasking by Susan Rice in the Obama administration, the attempt to obstruct justice by Loretta Lynch. These things are going to be what is going to be playing throughout the media during the 2018 re-election campaign. And maybe that's just the way the Republicans had planned it. It's something I suggested they might be doing. They might have been playing a little game with the Democrats. And it's, like I said, it will be good political strategy. So I'm telling you folks, the tide is going to turn. Just bear with me on this thing. This is why I continue to do these videos. Remember, during Watergate, the Watergate break-in and all those things in the investigation happened 7-8 months before the election. And Nixon won the election in a 49-state landslide. After winning in a 49-state landslide, a lot of people came up to Woodward and Bernstein in the newsroom and patted him on the back and said, well, good try, guys. You gave it your best shot. But that looks like old Nixon got reelected in a massive landslide, 49 states. I guess that's the end of your Watergate story. And a year and a half later, 22 of Nixon's administration officials, including 2 attorneys general, his chief of staff, many people from the campaign to re-elect, were in prison, and Nixon was resigning. This all happened after he won a 49-state landslide, and it took 2.5 years for this all to unwind. I don't think TowerGate will take that long. Now, I don't think we'll see quite the drastic circumstances that we saw in Watergate with a president, that would have to be Obama, being posthumously impeached or anything like that, although I certainly think that this could leave a dark cloud on his presidency. But I do believe there are some officials in his administration, such as Susan Rice, Loretta Lynch, Samantha Power, Ben Rhodes, maybe Comey, maybe Brennan, who could find themselves in some legal jeopardy, and there could be some people that could go to jail. Certainly this is going to be very damaging to the Democrats as they're trying to climb back into the game in 2018 and trying to prepare for 2020. And so anyway, this is very interesting to learn that the State Department is now opening a formal inquiry into Hillary Clinton. And believe me, there's much, much more to come. I do expect there will be some more looking into the Clinton Foundation, and I do expect there will be more looking at those emails, and I wouldn't be surprised at some point if those 30,000 missing emails show up somewhere. Next up, Trey Gowdy was on Fox News, and he was talking about the situation with Loretta Lynch that we learned thanks to James Comey. You remember when I told you the Democrats would regret having all these hearings? Because what did those hearings with Comey really tell us? Well, they told us that Trump was never under investigation, that they have no evidence of Trump-Russia collusion, and they have no actual evidence that anything the Russians did affected the election. But we also learned that Loretta Lynch told James Comey to change the characterization of his investigation. That is obstruction. We also learned that Comey, in closed session, said that he gave a memo, a document, to Loretta Lynch showing 2 high-level political people discussing the fact that she had already given the Clinton campaign the word not to worry about any type of investigation coming out of the FBI investigation or any type of legal jeopardy, because she was going to put the kibosh on it. So that's what really came out of the hearings. It was more damaging to the Democrats, to Loretta Lynch and the former administration, than it was to Trump. And now we have these members of the Congress and various committees looking at this, and now they all agree that Loretta Lynch needs to come in and explain herself, and it could very well lead to a special prosecutor, which is exactly what I said about going on offense. A special prosecutor looking into the obstruction by Loretta Lynch, for which there is plenty of evidence, something that doesn't exist in the Trump investigation. My. I'm telling you, the tables are going to turn. Just bear with me. Keep the faith. Now, what's very, very interesting today is that we have learned in the last 24 hours that we now know who that conversation was in that document that James Comey gave to Loretta Lynch, which resulted in her looking at it, reading it, leaving him with a cold stare, a steely-eyed stare, as Mr. Comey said, for a very uncomfortable period of time before she said, well, if you have nothing further, then you can go ahead and leave. He basically got thrown out of the office. We now know who's the two people were having that conversation in that memo that he gave to Loretta Lynch to read. And those two people were dun, da, 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 Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Amanda Renteria. Well, we all know who Debbie Wasserman Schultz is, don't we? Some of you may not know Amanda Renteria. I didn't, but she's apparently was one of Hillary Clinton's senior campaign officials. So, the memo, the document that James Comey gave to Loretta Lynch, said, here, read this. What do you think? That memo was a memo conversation between Debbie Wasserman Schultz and this Amanda Renteria, a senior Hillary Clinton campaign official, where it was discussed between those two that Loretta Lynch had already given one of these people the assurance that she would shut down and put the kibosh on any investigation or criminal sanction against Hillary Clinton. That is obstruction of justice, big time, hardcore. This document exists according to Trey Gowdy. Trey Gowdy says that that particular memo is in evidence. It is being held in evidence, and they've got it. That is a very damning piece of evidence. And in a criminal court, that's a type of evidence that will put people in jail. Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Amanda Renteria, Hillary Clinton, because she had to be aware of this, and certainly Loretta Lynch and anyone else, and I imagine it's most of the people in the Obama administration and the higher-ups at the Clinton campaign. And does this leave you any doubt as to what happened, what was discussed on the tarmac between Bill Clinton, Slick Willie, and Loretta Lynch? And according to Trey Gowdy, he says that it's very likely that the NSA has the recording of that conversation between Loretta Lynch and Bill Clinton, and if this matter went to a criminal court proceeding, that could be subpoenaed. My. I am going to go ahead and provide a link for you for that particular story because it's definitely one I think you might want to read. It's not a very long story, but it definitely lays out the details. It discloses the two people who were in that conversation, and it talks a little bit about what may happen moving forward, which is that this will most likely go to the committee of Charles Grassley, which is the Judicial Committee. Now, on the Judicial Committee, you have some very good, seasoned lawyers that head up the Judiciary Committee. These are people who are career attorneys, many of them criminal attorneys, civil litigation attorneys, defense attorneys, all of them have the background as prosecutors. These is probably the best committee to handle the issue with obstruction by Loretta Lynch. and this is probably the committee that would be hearing this. And Charles Grassley, he's pretty solid. He's a bit of a neocon, but he is a partisan, and he is he's a pretty straight shooter. And he absolutely would be the type of person who would question Loretta Lynch, who would call in other witnesses, get the information. And Grassley is definitely one of those people, and there's very few, but he is definitely one of those people who would refer it to the Department of Justice if there's evidence that a crime had been committed. He is not someone who probably would roll over. He would refer it to the Department of Justice. You could very well see a special prosecutor appointed to look into the matter of obstruction with Loretta Lynch based on this evidence which exists. So I will provide the link to you for that New York Post article. And I believe that's Paul Sperry that wrote that. He's a very good journalist, by the way. Been reading his stuff for years. Let's see. Okay, yes. Basically, he says in that New York Post article that it's not even really a discussion anymore. Even Dianne Feinstein's on that committee, and even she, the senior ranking Democrat on that committee, has even stated that yes, she believes that they are going to have to call Loretta Lynch in to discuss these two important pieces of evidence that have come forward as a result of the Comey hearings, which were pushed by the Democrats, which now may come back to bite them in the heinies. My. Well, there you go, my friends. Another very interesting day in TowerGate. We have Handel winning the election by at least 5%, despite the fact she was outspent 7-1. Democrats are in complete disarray and meltdown, and there's practically no hope for them whatsoever. Jeh Johnson tells us that there was absolutely no Russian changing of votes, that the election is 100% legitimate, and there's no reason to be looking into that anymore. We learned that the DNC did not allow the Department of Homeland Security to come in and help them patch the faulty areas of their network. We learned that the State Department, of course, is opening a formal inquiry into Hillary Clinton's handling of the classified emails. And now it appears that the Judiciary Committee is going to take a look at having, not just going to take a look, they actually have decided they are going to have the hearings. They are going to have the hearings. They are going to have Loretta Lynch come in. They're going to talk to her about these two issues, question her based on the evidence that we have, the information that we have, plenty of evidence to get Senator Grassley to move that they appoint a special prosecutor to look into that further to see if there could be criminal charges. My. And the two people in that particular email that James Comey shared with Lynch, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and a senior Clinton campaign official, shortly after Slick Willie met with Loretta Lynch on the plane. And it appears there could be recording of that conversation. My friends, I'm telling you, stick around. This thing is going to get very interesting. We must be patient. It is Washington, D.C., by the way. Remember that. Things don't move very quickly there. But I'm telling you that what I've been telling you for a long time, that the smoke and mirror campaign is going to disappear. All that will be left standing are the facts. And the facts are looking more and more like obstruction of justice. And we haven't even gotten into the unmasking or anything else. That is something that the House Intelligence Committee will be looking at. So between the House Intelligence and the Senate Judiciary Committee, I would say it's going to be a very busy fall for the previous members of the Obama administration, with the 2018 midterm elections getting started right after the fall recess, or the summer recess as they come back after summer and come back in the fall. You'll have that kicking off, as well as we'll start getting some hearings on some real crimes. My. Well, I got to get the garbage out. Thank you so much for tuning in and for checking out my channel and for subscribing. I, of course, love reading the comments. I appreciate all you guys. Just bear with me. I'm working a lot with the lighting issues. I'm trying to get some lighting together, and I'm going to improve things as we move on down this road. But we'll just take it one day at a time. We got to be patient, keep the faith, and hopefully in the end the truth will prevail. I'll do my very best to make sure that it does. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.